Our own views. We welcome now our political panel, Basil Smikle, Dr. Basil Smikle, I should say, former executive director of the New York State Democratic Party, and Kelly Sadler, communications director for America First Policies and America First Action, which is a pro-President Trump political action committee. She comes to us today from Washington. Before we get to impeachment, which is the subject we really want to address with you, we do. Defense Secretary Mark Esper is speaking right now, as we can see, about sending 1,800 troops, U.S. troops, to help protect Saudi Arabia. And Kelly, I'll start with you. We've seen this before when you have a president under investigative impeachment who also has some geopolitical things he has to handle. How much more complicated does it get?
Well, unfortunately, this impeachment move is purely political, driven by Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff, and the radical left. Now, we can chew gum and walk at the same time. And obviously, the president takes his responsibilities very seriously. And, you know, this decision by the defense secretary sounds like a wise one. We're also looking to pass USMCA this year, which is a huge trade deal, which would bring more economic prosperity to this already really good-looking economy. So we're looking to implement the policies that the president was elected on for the American public, and while this impeachment charade happens on the Hill.
So, Basil, we hear from Kelly that it's purely political. Let's set aside whether that's true or not. By the way, all impeachment at some point is political. It may be gaining some traction because Fox actually has a poll right now that says over 50%, about 51% of Americans that they polled actually favor not just impeachment, but also removal from office. So it seems to be having some effect. And after all, politics does matter.
It absolutely does. And, you know, contrary to the point made earlier, Nancy Pelosi was taking a lot of flack from within her own party because the feeling was that she wasn't moving quickly enough. But at this point, as you have articulated, the American public seems to be behind it. And one of the things that's underreported in that Fox News poll is that 51% of Americans believe that this president is more corrupt than previous presidents. That is a very important point because all of the things that Democrats were saying about him, and some Republicans, quite frankly, in 2016, maybe voters weren't able to connect the dots, but now they are. So it makes it far less political and a lot more about what the American public is seeing as a president that isn't acting in their best interest.
So Kelly, I don't want to speak for you, but I suspect you might take some issue with whether this is a more corrupt president. But be that as it may, there's an awful lot of mud being thrown around. And it's not just at the president. We have the Rudy Giuliani situation and whether, in fact, he was associated with these two people now who have been arrested. There's accounts about intervening, perhaps the president with Rex Tillerson to help another Rudy Giuliani client. That can't be good for the president.
Well, I mean, there's a lot. It muddies the waters, and it's unneeded muddying of the waters. Let's just look at the facts. The facts are that the president had a phone call with the president of Ukraine. The White House released that transcript. The transcript of the call showed that there was no quid pro quo that was offered. The president of Ukraine said he felt absolutely no pressure whatsoever from the call, and the call was a perfectly fine call. We had the whistleblower complaint that was released to the public. We know that the whistleblower is a Democrat who has potential ties to a 2020 Democratic candidate right now. So those are the facts as we know them. All this other stuff leads into these crazy narratives, much like we saw with the Russian collusion conspiracy for the last 2.5 years.
We're speaking with Basil Smikle and Kelly Sadler. Kelly, I want to come back to you on that. You are a Republican. This is your president, and you're proud of him. Are you proud of what he did on that telephone call? And are you proud of his raising with Rex Tillerson, possibly intervening on behalf of Giuliani's clients? Are you proud of that? Would you have advised him to do that?
I would advise the president, much like what he is doing with AG Barr, to look into the origins of the 2016 election cycle and Russian meddling and Ukrainian meddling in the 2016 cycle. This is something that AG Barr is looking into. It's something that John Durham, U.S. Special Counsel, is looking into because there really is something. They're there, you know, the U.S. spying on his campaign, and we'd like to get to the bottom of it. And that is what the president is doing, and that's what the AG report will uncover in the coming weeks, and what Durham's investigation will uncover.
Well, in my view, if the president wants to actually look into Russian meddling, he need not look beyond his own person. He was on the phone with the Ukraine asking them to look at one of his rivals in the presidential primary. He even went so far as to have a conversation about this with folks in Australia. The issue that I have is what the president seems to be doing is creating this coterie of foreign interests to investigate people with whom he disagrees. That should scare any American. It doesn't matter what party, but it suggests that this president is willing to violate certain norms of the office, which no president, I don't care whether you disagreed with them or not, have not done and have not even come across that line. So I think this just should be concerning at the very least and perhaps impeachable at the worst.
Kelly, you really get the last word here. What is your response? Is this helping the Republicans? Is it hurting Republicans? Is it helping the Democrats, hurting the Democrats?
Well, I mean, the Democrats have done nothing but investigation since they've been elected to office. They won the House on kitchen table issues like solving health care costs, improving our infrastructure, and they have done none of that. We have done our own polling on the issue, going into these districts where you have Democrats, vulnerable Democrats in Trump districts, and we found that impeachment is not popular at all, that they want Congress to focus on these kitchen table issues, and that they believe the president is well within his rights to ask foreign governments to look into possible election meddling in the 2016 election.
Okay, Kelly, I said you had the last word. You get it. Basil, you get the last word next time, I promise. Okay, many thanks to our political panel.